Item number 2 is acceptance of minutes. Did you all review minutes from 11 November 9?
11/9, not 9/11.
I know, exactly. And I was reading through it and that's what I read. Everybody reviewed?
I move we accept.
Accept, okay, second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? None opposed? Okay. Item number 3 is demo RFP, an update discussion with Paul Designs, if he comes in.
Do you want to go to fundraising and wait?
Maybe
hope
give him
that Paul
a
comes in?
try to come
Yeah.
in. Okay, let's do that. Let's hold off on item 3 and move right to item 4, fundraising. How are we doing?
Well, Linda knows if we've gotten anything, via the,
Not on the button on
Donate
the
button.
website
Oh,
lately.
I meant to bring up, I can find it though. Yeah, Bianca sent me a really nice little thing, what she's got for the throw on the website. And she has done a really nice job with what she wrote. I meant to bring it up, but I can read it to you. So on the Bates website, and then it says, this commemorative throw was woven to help raise money for the restoration and rebuilding of the original Monmouth Academy, our town's local public high school that dates back to 1803. Whether you're a local with personal connections to our small town or are from another part of the country with an appreciation for America's historic buildings, this throw will be a welcome addition to your home or as a lovely gift for a loved one this holiday season. Thanks for helping us raise money to support the restoration of one of our town's most iconic buildings. So she has that right on the website with pictures. I mean, there's a demo of one of them. I don't have them yet. I assume that, and she and I have talked, that she knows that people want them for Christmas. So I'd assume in the next week or so, I should be hearing
Yeah.
from her.
Okay.
And when I posted that on Monmouth Alumni Association, then I'm not on Monmouth Moms and Dads for a lot of reasons, but Jeff is, so I had him put it
Okay,
on Monmouth
yeah.
Moms and Dads. And I had a lot of responses from that. I had a lot of people message me and reach out to me. So
We put it on Save the Academy
yes,
also.
we did. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on
Are you gonna have to
CV.
pre-order or you can have a bunch?
I'll have extra too. I mean,
Yeah.
I told her probably, 200-ish. So I know that
good.
she did patches for that because I mean, obviously after the holidays, we
Mhm.
want to still have them, but
Mhm.
for the people that reached out to me for Christmas gifts, I've got probably close to 50. so
Wonderful.
far.
Nice.
So I'm pretty happy about that.
Good.
And
Yeah.
so the next thing is I've got the email address of the CFO of Tex Tech. So I'm going to send him a letter. I'm going to send one to like Waterman Farm Machinery, businesses in the area of since Sabatis, Litchfield and Wales and the Waterman boys went to Monmouth. I'm going to send a letter to them and just see what happens. And
Is
then
there
like
anything
G&E Roofing and then Steve Lapointe from,
G&E.
is he G&E? Yes.
Yeah.
G&E. And then I'll send one to him. He asked me to send it to him and he'd get it to the right people. And so I'm going to start working on hitting up the businesses as well. So
Did you
And
get your grant apps?
I haven't yet. I'm still trying to write the stuff and find, because I've just been a little kooky between my addition and
Well, let me know if you need
yes,
help.
no, I've just got to sit there and write it, which I also want to reach out to, because one of the questions it asks you is if you've talked to anybody at the bank. So I'm going to reach out to Richardson. Why can't I think of her first name?
Michelle.
Michelle Richardson, because I
Labonte.
mean, yeah, because
Labonte
I,
Richardson,
yeah,
right? Does she go by
whatever.
Richardson?
What?
What, does she still go by Richardson?
I have no idea.
Me either, but anyway, never mind.
But, I mean, because her boys went to Monmouth and, she's a Monmouth person and then my banker at Kennebec Savings and then Bill Hill and say, I am doing this. So just so if you know, if they ask, tell them yes, give us money. So that's about it. That's all I have so far.
Well, we got the rebates for the heat pumps today, not as much as we were originally expecting, but $4,800, I put it into the renovation account.
Oh,
Good.
cool.
Yay.
Wonderful. That's awesome. That's really
All right.
good. All right. All set for going on to item 3 for demo RFP and update discussion with all design projects.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Apologies
evening.
for being a little late.
That's okay.
How's the
It's
trip
foggy
up?
out there.
How was the trip
Very
up?
foggy.
How what?
How was the trip up?
Yeah, just foggy and backed up on 95. And
Yeah,
then I got off and I was just a little nervous.
on 132.
Yeah,
this
it's
morning
not-
at
It's not a kind.
Q4, it was really dicey.
I'm sure it was. And John was going to join us this evening, but he slipped on the ice this morning.
Oh, no.
And like, he didn't do anything serious, but his hand and his hip and everything were all, he's like, I should probably not come.
Zoom in.
He's-
See some pain.
He was in some pain, I
Yeah.
think, so.
He might have taken one of those little pills that
Yeah.
help.
It's like best we don't have.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, he sends his regards. So we have a number of things, here, but we have 2 RFPs. Everybody's gotten them, right? And as a, sorry, this is the other thing. One of the things that we did look at, based on the last meeting, was not demolishing the foundation on the left side of the building. And we have some options to talk about later. I just wanted to mention that because the bids assume that will be completely demolished. So if we select one of the 2 bidders this evening, I would assume we would have a conversation with them about modifying the bid based on what we're talking about. And one of the things we may choose to do is actually have them not touch that side of the building at all and do the demolition as part of the construction for that part. I mean, that's an option we could discuss, or we could talk about that with the selected contractor as well as an option, just to see. In any case, so we have 2 bids with a pretty big difference between them.
Well, it makes sense though, for what their scopes are.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the 2 companies that put the bids in?
St. Laurent, I am familiar with Almighty Waste. They did not come to the walkthrough, which was not a required walkthrough. So therefore, it's okay that they bid on the project. There's no disqualification for that reason. St. Laurent did come to the walkthrough and they asked a lot of questions. And they also have a lot of folks calling, asking questions as well. So I don't have any reason to disqualify or say either one of them are not valid bids. I don't know if you have any difference of opinion from what you've read.
Well, I think the only thing that St. Laurent did was, coming out and saying, well, we're gonna do this with the materials and crush it to fill, and all of that. But, Almighty Waste didn't have really
We didn't do groundwork.
a list, so.
Right,
Well, yeah, and I think that's the difference, is they're not ground workers, whereas St. Laurent does both. They're doing the demo and they're talking about
right.
all the groundwork. So whereas St. Laurent, I would think that we would have to get a price, if I read it properly, we'd have to get a price for a ground guy to come in
And do the final
and do
grading.
the final. Yeah.
Well, that was part of their scope though, wasn't it? In the bid process,
Yeah.
that was all specified?
But since
I
they didn't, since they
Probably
did-
should let it be known. I've done work for St. Laurent,
Mhm.
so I have a business relationship, not ongoing, but
I've
in the
worked with them
past.
as well.
Mhm.
just to put it out there.
Yeah, yeah. But that's, of course, St. Almighty Waste didn't itemize. But
Right.
I think it's pretty clear, at least it was to me, and I had Ed read it as well. And looking at those.
It's unclear, agreed, and that would be a question I think that we'd have to ask them as to what they were doing.
Mhm.
I mean, they pretty much listed their equipment and what they've done in the past, so I think they're capable of doing
Oh,
the
yeah,
project.
yeah.
But I think that would have to be a conversation with them. That information, just to be clear as to what was going to happen, was in the bid package that went out. It wasn't something that was discussed at the walkthrough. So it's
So
not
they
like
should
St.
have
Laurent had additional information.
Yeah, so maybe a clarification if it does include groundwork.
So we could be looking at another $300,000 if it
Never
was
know,
awarded
right.
to the lowest bidder, just to do the groundwork.
We would have to we want clarification on their scope.
Yeah,
So I think St. Lawrence put in there.
They didn't exclude
They
groundwork
didn't.
in there.
Because you see, he says, he's saying a 3-inch layer of topsoil over existing building footprint areas, hydroseed all areas.
well, that's
That
right.
tells me that he's doing final grading.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
St. Laurent, but what
St.
I'm
Laurent.
asking about is Almighty.
Right, right. And
Almighty,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the thing. And
You know, I'm sure we could easily reach out to them and ask them for a little further clarification of what was included, what
what's
wasn't
included
included.
in your.
correct. At this point, both of the bidders know the amounts. Is that correct?
Yes, I sent, St. Laurent had called me and wanted to know, one, if we were doing an open, and I said no. And then they wanted to know when they could find out what the bids were. And I said, as soon as I have them figured out.
Mhm,
And so once I got the all clear from Paul, I sent both of them
mhm.
copies of
Right.
the bid so that they
Yep.
both have them.
And we left the proposal that we could have interviews or that we could ask questions. So I think as long as we were to, this is where I guess I would turn to you to make sure that we ask them both the same questions or in essence, just to clarify, I mean, although it's clear in St. Laurent's bid, so we would sort of know that. When we had done our initial sort of budgeting way back, we had assumed about 400,000 for the demolition. So if it in fact is an $800,000 demolition, then this is an impact to the project that we would have to absorb.
That was nice.
Good word. Nice way to put that.
But had you assumed an elevator with the 2 stairways when you were originally?
Yes.
And how much does that save by not having to do those 2 things?
Yeah, we assumed the elevator would have been about 100,000 or so. The stairways probably would have been another 50 or so. We're sort of on a couple parallel paths here because we've been looking at not demolishing the basement on the other side and rebuilding or reusing, and we've got tonight are a bunch of options for rebuilding, but not that we couldn't look at other options, and we'll discuss that later. I think we could probably absorb some of it in that sense, but not all of it would have an impact. But again, we're sort of balancing a lot of things here with a fluid budget. There is also the possibility of changing the scope of the demolition to not include everything, or I mean, I'm not sure what the appetite is for something like that. We've talked about getting rid of everything in this case. So if we did less demolition, obviously it would be less money, but I mean, I think the only part that we want to keep would be the foundation on the foundation in the lower floor on the left side of the building. So.
But if we keep that foundation, are we going to fill the void? In other words, the foundation hole.
Well, the idea would be that we would build an addition on the side,
Yeah,
but obviously that has a cost. And if we're cutting $400,000 out of the budget, I'm
Right.
more concerned with that.
but you could keep the foundation, but also fill in the hole itself. Or put a slab in there.
Right, in general, what we've asked them to do is to demolish all of the foundations and footings and then grind it and put it
Mhm.
back. So we could, as an option, go back to both of the bidders and ask them for ways to save money. It could be that schedule is causing some of the cost. We haven't had this conversation with them at all. I know that a lot of, when we first put this out, there were a lot of questions about schedule. And Saint Laurent did say this was going to affect the cost because of the schedule we were trying to keep. And what I advised everyone to do was to put our bid form, ask them to say what the dates that they expected things to be started, completed. And we've asked them to give that information to us so that we would at least know. But that doesn't mean that they gave us dates that are costing more money, or if we were to start 6 months later, does that save us money? I don't know the answers to those questions.
During the walkthrough, when we were all going around, a lot of them were talking about that being very difficult. Construction with big equipment and water trucks and things like this in the middle of January, said
Oh, it's
this
a nightmare.
can be very difficult, and
Doable, but still a nightmare.
yeah, he said, big diesel equipment don't like running when it's really cold out. I mean, they do,
Right,
but,
exactly.
the schedule of Almighty not starting until March alleviates most of that problem. And I don't know if that's why they gave us those dates, or they didn't specify.
Correct. So that would be, so I guess I would say we would probably, perhaps tonight, and please correct me if I'm not keeping this all at the legal level that we need to. We would generate a list of questions that we could ask both. I think one of them would be if they have any options or any thoughts about ways that we might save money on the project. What, basically asking them to VE for us, which I think is, I would expect you ask both of these contractors, or maybe that's not a question that we'd ask to Almighty Waste, because their number seems more in line with what we expected. But I think we could still ask them a question.
On Almighty's Waste, they gave us option 1 and option 2.
Right.
I understand it that the total project is the addition of both of those.
I know.
No, no.
Well, they're saying demolition within 60 inches, in other words, 5 feet of the old school.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Then they're saying demolition of old school.
Yeah.
So to me,
They're
I'm
taking
like
down
saying,
everything. I don't know why they've given us that as an option.
see, I read that.
Wasn't that,
It was
sorry.
originally in the discussion
Yeah.
before.
right, that wasn't, I think that's because it was an earlier discussion of getting pricing to do both as part of the referendum
Yep.
question. Is that correct?
No, what the original question was either renovate the old academy and demolish everything else, or demolish everything, including the old academy.
Yeah.
That was the
That was. the-
Okay.
Yeah.
I
right.
believe that's what option 2
So,
was.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the way I read this is that it'll cost you $50,000 more for us to be gentle and get up against the school.
Right.
Whereas if we can stay 5 feet away and knock it down and not have to be
Right.
precise,
Surgically, yeah, yeah.
then it's $50,000 less, and we'll leave 5 feet of cinder blocks sticking out there that you can figure out how to move. That's how I read
Mhm,
1
yeah.
and 2.
And to be honest, that's not such a bad option, because once we know what we're doing with the
Yes.
building, that level of precision is probably best handled by the construction manager who is doing
Exactly.
that work.
Yes,
Because we're talking about sort of 2 scales, coarse
Yes.
and fine.
yes.
As you can all understand.
I'm still concerned that with the price difference, I mean, I'm sure since they did ask all the questions,
Mhm.
that does add.
Right.
Obviously, but I'm still concerned what the end result is.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a,
Will we be bringing somebody in to make it pretty?
To fix it.
Right,
To do site work.
so that's a concern of mine when I'm looking at
Things,
the difference here.
especially because they didn't itemize what they're gonna do.
That's right.
They just threw a number at it.
Yeah.
And we just want to know, make sure everything's covered.
Right.
Yeah.
right. These questions, we can ask them both. Some of them we already know the answers to.
Mhm.
For example, asking Saint Laurent, question number 1, which, as I'm loosely carrying this, where are the potential cost savings?
Exactly.
With Almighty Waste, we probably They may have some, I could ask them the question, obviously, but they may not have a lot. Whereas with number two, what are we left with? With Saint Laurent, we know what we're left with for the most part.
Absolutely.
Seeded and
Yeah, we
topsoil.
know what to
With,
expect.
with Almighty Waste, we don't know what we're left with.
Right.
It's unclear. So
Right.
that question I think would be legitimate for
Yeah.
them. So those are the two so far. I don't know if there are actually, and I think we can be a little bit more precise with the language of the questions and all that, and I would
Yeah.
write something and we could review it, obviously.
I just had one question. Starting in March, aren't the roads still posted, most of them? I mean, are they gonna be able to get heavy equipment over the roads?
Well, it's only certain roads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so the main roads. are-
Main roads
Yeah.
that they'd be hauling on 202 and
Yeah.
Main Street
Okay.
are fine.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah,
can't go
it's just
down
the
like
side
Fish
roads.
Hatchery or Welch Avenue or something like that.
Does the committee feel that it needs to interview these two people,
I-
these two, or have Paul ask these questions of the two
Either.
companies?
I don't feel like I need to interview them. When you've been saying, bring them in and we'll ask these questions. That's one of the reasons I feel like we've hired you
Yeah.
to do this for us.
And I would suggest that we would write the questions out
Right.
and then we could all review them and make sure that that's what we want and then send them to both of them. And then I'm more than happy and able to have conversations with them
Yes.
after we get their sort of written answers. Because I
Right.
want
Right.
it all documented.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
And then, have that conversation, you're sort of just tracking everything, the question about the roads, made me think a third question might be to ask them about schedule and how that affects cost.
Right.
They may offer that as a savings, but I think if we say to Almighty Waste, if you could do this at any time, would that save us money or something to that effect?
Am I naive to think that you said that you sent each one the other's bid?
I sent them both.
Right, so they
Yeah.
each saw them.
Yeah.
So am I naive to think that maybe when Almighty Waste got theirs or read the other one, they might have gone, oh, wow, we weren't as fine
Oh,
tuned.
absolutely. I would hope so.
So they may anticipate that
Right.
we're going to be coming
Oh, yeah.
to them for some more clarification.
Correct. And the answer to the question of what are we left with? They may say you're left with rough grading and that's it, no seeding, and that might be okay. We may
Right.
not want to seed as part of this project. We may want to do that later, or, I mean, there's lots of ways we can synthesize the information.
Mhm.
Ultimately, we're going to get some pricing. We still have time before their 30 days. I don't know if they were holding them for 30 days or not. I think we said 30 days.
And their pricing.
Yeah, but in any case, I would want to get these questions to them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I just think if we delay, it could begin to snowball.
Correct.
Have we decided where we wanted the parking lots?
No, we haven't.
No.
No, because we're still working on concept. We haven't really started on site
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
thoughts yet.
mean, putting down topsoil, if you're gonna put a parking lot in, I mean, maybe just what you said.
Oh, you
maybe-
mean not seeding this area
Right.
because we're putting,
Because we may, put-
right.
yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, and that's ongoing.
Decision towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
By
a
that
few months
particular-
away.
Right, and it seems like we're a few months away from any one of these two starting, so by that point, we'll have some more information.
Okay.
So that could inform things. I think ultimately, when we choose one of these, there's going to be a finer tooth negotiation
Oh, yeah.
based on the answers to the questions and then other conditions that we know.
And how is our silly playground affecting all of this? Because my understanding is we are going to have to move it all to even get in here anyway.
We have to, we have to take the equipment out and store it in essence. So, and the storage, we told them to assume that it was going to be the fairgrounds for lack of a better location, but so then it has to be replaced.
During the walkthrough, I talked to Saint Laurent and he said that doesn't bother us at all. We can leave it right there.
Right.
We don't need to remove it and replace it.
So that in fact may be a cost savings measure to not do that. And that would be something they could offer up, or we could
Yeah.
even ask them that question. If
Right.
we left the playground
You know,
in place,
Mhm.
what happens?
yeah. But he did mention that when we were walking through this, is we can work around that with no issue.
Because we, you know, the RFP, what we tried to do with it was basically get everything that we felt we needed to get to a clean site.
Mhm.
There may be compromise positions that we'd be happy if save $100,000 to do something, maybe that's worth it. I would say it wouldn't be unless it's an egregious, you know,
Mhm.
gap or a hole in the ground or something that doesn't work, but I mean, we'll know more about that. So I guess at this point, I have 4 questions.
I would ask one more.
Yep.
St. Laurent has addressed it, but well, I don't think Almighty Waste has is how they're gonna handle utilities. And I know St. Laurent does a lot of site work in that, so they're familiar with handling utilities.
Right.
Almighty Waste, I don't know. You know, what I know of them, they just come in and take things down.
They're over on Washington Street.
They're both Lewis. Yeah, agreed. That's a good question. So I have a question about general cost savings. What are we left with? How does schedule affect cost? What if we left the playground in place? And I might include that to say, what about the piece of art and other things that we asked them to store? And then lastly, how do we handle, how are they handling utilities? And we'll write these up so they're a little more professional than what.
Paul and I
we're
did a
left with.
bunch of research on the drain lines. The drain for this building goes out, goes down across, and then goes underneath the little canopy,
Yeah, that archway or that.
under the archway, whatever you
connector.
call that
Yeah.
little
Yeah,
connecting
walkway.
corridor.
Yeah. the walkway.
And it looks like, we're not sure, but it looks like it ties into the drain that comes out of the other building. Looks like they intersect out there someplace
Okay,
and then go on out to the main sewer system out back.
yeah, that
Yes, behind.
way, yeah.
There's,
Turn around.
so that's
Yes.
something
Here,
we're
I
gonna have.
brought- I brought this way. That's
Oh,
the layout of the sewer system out there.
oh, that's great.
So we ran into a little hiccup trying to redo the water line to this building.
But I don't know, like Steve said, we know for this building, it comes out and there's a couple clean outs that runs across the front of the building. We think it intercepts the sewer line coming out of the old academy way
Mhm.
there. But that appears to be right next to the building. Goes out underneath that walkway and enters that manhole. We only saw one pipe coming into the manhole. So,
So when they're removing the foundation from that
they're
old
gonna have
academy
to be
building,
careful with that
that-
utility.
that
Yeah.
sewer line is gonna be less than a foot away.
Right.
Essentially, that sewer line's gonna have to remain in place.
Yeah.
If they,
Remain
you
in
can
place
move
or
it, or you're gonna
restore it.
have to reconstruct
Yeah.
it. The line out back, it should stay in place unless they remove it entirely.
And I don't see a duration on St. Lawrence. We have
No,
45 to 60 days for, so I would be curious about what they're thinking for duration.
Yeah, the one thing, Stephen, I couldn't figure out is out of, I guess, the old home ec classroom, you know, there's a pipe that goes out there.
right.
We have no idea where it goes into.
Oh, coming out and then headed
Yeah,
towards the back. Yeah.
Found a clean out inside.
all right.
After the fact, I was
Wow.
down in there and I found a clean out by the corner of the floor, but don't know which direction it goes out of the building from there, but we assume it heads
Yeah.
out the back, but
I mean, there had to have been a septic system prior to 1975.
Yeah,
So
75 is when-
So it would make sense to me that if there was a septic system, it was probably down on the fair, down back.
I
Where the football
remember there
field
there were times when
Or was it where the
there was-
smoking corral was?
there was an odor
Yeah,
because of, yeah,
you remember the smoking corral?
Yeah.
Was it there or was it down on
no,
the fairgrounds?
it was down towards the
Where the
fairgrounds
football
and it
field
would
was.
become mushy
Yes,
sometimes.
between the slope and where the football
just
field
trying to be
started. No,
nice.
but that's true. I mean, there had to have been, there's gotta be a septic field down there.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember.
Which at this point is probably abandoned.
Well, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah.
They tapped into.
Probably lots grow. grows really well, you know, the fertilizer underneath is fabulous. Yeah, it's.
Last night it was chicken and cow manure.
I know, saw your post about it. So, all right, I will develop the list of questions
Thank
and
you.
then I will run it past, I'll send it to you and then we can share and then we can make sure that we have that. And then we'll send it to both of the bidders and then have conversation after we get some response from them. Is there, I guess I'm gonna ask the question, just because I'm gonna ask the question. Is there any scenario where we would not demolish everything? Other than the left side of the building we're talking about? Or
No,
is
with
that,
the town voted to.
We need to
do it.
do
We have
Okay,
to.
Yeah.
God
that's,
help, oh, your mother.
Yes.
Can you
I'm-
imagine?
I'm asking the tough questions.
Mhm.
Boy,
Or
I'd
maybe
have
the
to
dumb
leave town.
questions, I don't know. Okay, no, that's the answer I needed.
Yep.
Thank you.
It was definitive, wasn't it, Paul?
Absolutely, that's what I do. Okay, great, so that will be that piece. The next item that I had, unless, I know you have an agenda, I don't want to,
No, that's you.
okay, there was, did this get set? Everyone, the bell work, so there was some work done on the bell and
Did you get it, Larry?
I didn't.
I brought you a copy.
that sort of did an assessment of the bell and the weather vane. And, you know, we talked about, recommendations for it, which I think is something that we should at least receive pricing for the work that's described on here, because as John and I were talking about this and how the bell is such a, we've talked about it here and how having the bell ring is so important, but I think it would be. And I mean, at this point, we've invested in at least, I think, a really good assessment of it. So I think at this point, we could get at least a preliminary estimate of how much it would be to do the repairs and have that factored into our bigger menu of items that we're.
When I got this, I was hoping there would be some sort of,
Pricing,
you know,
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, no, he talked about what needed to be there.
right.
I'm gonna have to go back to him and ask him for pricing.
I assume there must be people that kind of specialize in that.
Well, actually, I think Jonathan Taggart can do the work as well.
Oh, he
That's
does.
why I'm surprised that he didn't give us a cost to do it. But I'm sure he will if we ask him. And then we could also at some point bid that work out if we wanted to.
Right.
But I think at this point, we're getting preliminary pricing for our ever-changing moving budget.
Exactly. Moving budget,
Steve, is
moving
this
scope.
your hand on the weather vane?
Yes, it was.
Little hand model.
Yeah, that was
With his
me.
leather glove on.
It was chilly.
Looks like it
I
was
bet up
chilly.
there it was.
The wind, it kept trying to turn,
Yeah.
so I had to hold it steady so you could take pictures.
Oh, that's from me. I didn't see the hand.
Paul, did you get any reports from the structural people on the belfry and stuff?
Not yet, no.
Okay. We did that after Jonathan was there.
Right.
We looked at that and there's substantial rot up in the top of that
Right.
belfry.
This was the part that had the most, the biggest issues in terms of wear,
Mhm.
as we expected, so.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to have that estimate because like we talked about is maybe we could go to bigger
Right.
companies and say, would you like to help us restore this? And it would be, you know, a plaque of some
Right,
sort
absolutely.
put on it saying,
It's a high value donor item. I
right,
think.
Mhm.
right.
Absolutely.
And even this report, I think, is a great thing to sort of share with someone. 'Cause
Yes.
When you see, it's like, look at the condition.
Yeah,
You can help us with
Right.
this.
yeah.
Please.
But the bell itself was in good shape. It's really the structure around it, so.
Larry, do you know the history of that bell? Has that bell always been up there? So that's what, I'd love to have somebody dive into that at
I don't
the,
know, Phyllis, I don't think
Yeah.
she said anything in her book.
no, yeah. In the book,
Well, I just want to make sure that the clapper
yes.
will become properly mounted
Properly mounted.
as opposed to whatever that word is.
So it'll no longer be a joke.
Right.
Yeah.
Poor guy, but I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, Jonathan said he thought that clapper wasn't the proper one to go with the bell.
Oh,
Yeah.
When he and I were
Yeah.
up there.
Oh, really?
He
Well,
thought it looked like it hung down too low and it didn't strike the bell
Correct.
in the
Correct,
proper
right.
Well,
location.
it looks like it was, not to use my father's word, but it looked like Bale Twine engineering for how it was
Pretty much
attached.
was.
But my father would have used another word, which I won't use.
and my father probably would have said the same thing.
Well, and there was,
Zoom going to YouTube.
Yeah.
there was in the one picture, you could see there was a chip on the side of the
Yeah,
bell.
yeah.
Right.
And he thought that was caused by the wrong clapper hitting it in the
Yes,
wrong
right.
spot.
Yeah.
So to restore it properly, maybe a
Yeah.
new clapper would
clapper.
need to
Right,
be
yeah, right.
sourced.
Right.
I don't know how tough that is to
We
get
can put,
parts
we
from.
can put that exact one of the
We can 3D
clappers
print
on.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Clapper
exactly.
didn't work when someone had a stroke. We got one for dad. It never worked.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Oh, it's awful.
Well, John and I were looking at the thing initially. He thought that the way to do all this would be to remove the entire bell. frame and
Correct.
put it
Bring it
on the
down.
ground.
Right.
Right.
The,
Sturdy enough to do that.
well, it doesn't look like that's possible. That is post and beam
Yes,
framed clear down
exactly.
through,
Yes.
Oh, into the whole,
clear down to
Yeah.
the ceiling level of the
Hmm.
room below. There's 8x8s in the corners. They go
Yeah.
all the way down. If you try to take it off, the roof structure would be compromised.
Mm.
I assume when you get the report from the structural
Right,
people,
right,
they will
yeah.
tell you that. I'm just passing out what
Yeah.
I,
And I remember that
overheard.
from when we went up into the attic and looked into the.
yeah, he
it
was.
may be possible to remove part of the roof to get scaffolding up to work on it in site and then on in situ, sorry.
Yeah,
And then replace that structure because we're replacing the entire roof.
Mhm.
yeah.
I think we have to.
That was what the guy suggested, rather than trying to do it out of man lifts, you'd almost have to hire a scaffolding company to
Right.
come scaffold it up.
The whole thing.
It would basically be, the scaffolding will all be setting on the roof.
Right. Unless it goes from the floor of the interior and we go up through.
Yeah,
Through the attic or somehow, I mean, that would be a staging issue that construction management companies would
yeah.
also help.
Mhm.
I apologize, I did forget. I did speak to Haas, the contractor who visited, who came to the walkthrough but did not bid. They chose to not bid because they couldn't meet schedule. But they are very much interested in bidding on the construction management
Oh, good.
project when that comes to be. So they're still in connection.
And where
Is there
are
an
they from?
RFP coming
They
out on that?
are in, I think they're either Lewiston or they're not, or Portland, they might be. They're within an hour away.
They're in Maine.
Yeah, they're in Maine. Yeah, they're Maine based.
Curious.
They're folks from, they're folks who split off from Consigli and Zachow and Warren Construction,
What's
which
the
are,
name of it?
it's MW Haas, I believe,
As
HOSS.
in Cartwright.
Yeah.
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 We did have that.
Big hat.
But obviously Consigli, Zachow and Warren are all very reputable contractors. I've worked with all of them. And these are all sort of younger guys that have, they're younger now, aren't they? Who have broken off and started the company a few years back. So again, they would be bidding and they would have a chance just like anyone else. But I just wanted to convey that I did finally connect with them yesterday. Okay, so I will get pricing on the bell to follow up with that number, and then I am going to nudge the structural engineers to get our report together for that. And the last thing I have are some options for what we might do, which is the fun stuff, but obviously all of this will be tempered by our budget, so. But I think it's still worth talking about this because there is some direction and some ideas that I think will inform where we end up.
Mhm.
So I think they have 4 or 5 copies of this, so we might have to share.
I do have one question, since obviously all of this stuff, we're not going to be able to move and get out of the building. But in the part of the old academy that we're keeping, up in the attic, there's boxes and boxes. There's trophies, there's cheerleading outfits, there's all kinds of stuff still stored up in the attic in boxes.
Wow.
And Yes.
I'm wondering,
Right.
no, they're up there. I'm
So-
wondering, Paul, is it possible that we have anyone who's going to be working for us who would empty out that attic anyway before it's going to be worked on?
Well, it'll have to be
It has to
emptied
be
out,
emptied
so,
out.
you know, but some of that stuff, I don't want it to go into a trash bin because we don't even know what.
Is
we
it
are
is it something that can go to the
to a s-
museum?
Well,
or the
I mean, it's gotta
archives,
go
or-
in a storage unit of some sort into some sort of storage area that we can go through it and say,
Right.
this is trash, this
Mhm,
is, this we need to keep, this we need to keep,
Maybe we ought to
because,
think about renting some kind of a little pod.
you know, we
Yeah.
could rent, yeah, one of those on-site pods that we could, we could
That
spend
would
some
be
time going
right.
through it
And
as.
then we could bring all that stuff down.
No, there's
Or
no,
is that free
to
mold?
me, I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
there's
I
any.
think the attic is
The
fine.
attic is
Okay.
fine.
There's a lot of old fiberglass insulation up there that's probably gonna have to come out to be
Yeah.
re-insulated because it's
Yeah.
kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I mean, there's boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff.
There's lots of stuff, old window blinds.
Oh, yeah,
I don't wanna
some
grab
of
it
it's
from-
junk, but I mean, some of it, I mean, there's trophies in
Yeah,
there
there is.
and
Mhm.
all kinds of things. So, you know,
That they never got taken across the street. Wow.
they've been up there for a long
Long
time.
time.
No, and there actually was some stuff left down in the dungeon
Mhm.
that Lori actually hooked up with Rick Amaro and got to him
Yeah,
because.
Which might be
months
some of it in
ago-
that
Yeah.
bag.
yeah, so, yeah,
So if we could rent a pod and we could
Yeah.
Right.
get somebody up there to get all that stuff down and put it in the pod and then
And
these
then
guys would
maybe
have it.
sort through it.
yeah,
a
then we
little
can
bit.
go through it,
Yeah.
you know, and
And then-
see what we need
Larry,
and don't need.
This also, it's a 1905 class ring.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
That's cool.
Is that the original box? Even?
Must be. yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's
I will put it right in there.
We're never gonna see
They
That's
would
his
like to
archival
see it.
bag.
Yeah, no, they would like to see
Oh,
it.
we want to look at it, Larry.
We're all curious.
Take it out of the archival bag.
Yeah.
Larry, some of us like jewelry.
All of us like. I'll have that bling.
It is the holidays.
Yeah.
You know, I told you the church bell in the center of town was 1882, so I don't know if, you know, but in their archives, we have some old journals that were kept by the trustees, so maybe going through those,
Yeah,
somebody could find out when the bell was purchased.
yeah, exactly.
But so there's no markings on
Doesn't
it
say
at all.
anything about,
Not that we could find, no.
Isn't that
Now, where was that? That was in.
so the bell, we pretty much figured was
This,
original to the building.
Was brought to.
I mean, it
brought
looks
to
like
an
it, the way
alumni
it's
meeting
constructed
once,
and everything. So
and
Yeah,
Unfortunately, somebody left.
just
it,
because of
and
the
so
structure
Rick
of
has
the-
kept
of the-
it, and
of the bell.
They have not wanted it back.
And how it's
so
integrated,
I
I would
know.
assume that it would have been part of the building and therefore they would have put a bell in it.
Yeah,
I think in one of the old poems there, they mentioned something about hearing the bell ring, so.
okay.
That's a-
Mhm.
That looks like rose gold.
Yeah, probably just
So
needs to be
you've got
cleaned.
This is my
different options, Paul?
great-grandmother's.
I do have different options and I will share these electronically. They're kind of hot off the press today. First thing we did is we sort of updated the plan drawings we've started to get the left side. Sorry, so if we are looking at the front of the building
Mhm.
there, this would be the foundation of what's there. And then we've updated our existing conditions to show that because we hadn't drawn the whole building.
Mhm.
So these will be in the sets, you can see them.
Mhm.
One of the things that we know is that's a 3-story addition because of the way it comes down.
Yeah.
It's mostly built out of concrete block that apparently has internal insulation. So it really has no, what they used to do is called a product called Zonalite, where they filled the cores of the block with insulated material, and that was it. So it's probably an 8-inch block, not 12, from what we can tell. It looks like an 8-inch block. All of this means easy to knock down. But there is a concrete foundation underneath it that we assume will be sufficient to support anything because of the way it is. The front of it is clad in brick as well, as you can tell. And it is 3 stories. So what we are thinking in the options that I'm going to show is basically that we would keep the lower story and the stair probably we were hoping to rebuild the stair, but I think in terms of cost, we would try to keep the stair lower level to the main level, but basically demolish as much of the upper level and floor and walls so that we have a platform to build on, to build something that would be compatible with the building. It is larger than the building. So some of the options we started considering, what if we pulled it back in?
Right.
And we could pull that in more. And also, we could also consider ways of saving more of the building if that became more cost effective as well. But I think we ultimately would want to do something to the front to make it more compatible. So we, slide 4 here. So I've got 4 of these. Maybe we
I
can
don't
share.
know. Yeah, that's fine.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Follow along with these. So I'm going to ask for an open mind.
Okay.
And you know, with these options, they look more finished because I always say this because it's a computer model. You have very much sketches really to sort of think about options. So this first option is really looking at, when you look at the plan, the red line is the existing foundation. The back of that building is further back than the existing hall. You can see from that line there. And it goes out further. That last bay that we were cutting off is actually the stair bay. So in this version, we would have to rebuild a stair. We haven't, some of these you'll see we've looked at some interior layouts, but and this was just sort of saying, what if we built a similar roof line? We went back and forth about the entrance, whether we did a separate entrance or not. It doesn't have to have one. But you can see what we were doing from the elevation here is trying to get basically sort of a secondary entrance, thinking that maybe it's that entrance and the entrance on the side as the 2 buildings, and then the main entrance is more ceremonial.
Right.
Which seems to make sense because it's right into the hall, and that doesn't seem like a great place to have people coming in for day to day. But for an event, absolutely. So that was the thinking. Now, could it be shifted over one? Yes, and you'll see some of these do that. So the second option, what we're trying to do is we've really been studying the proportions of the building and trying to understand the column structure. It's interesting. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the proportional system called the golden section. It's this sort of, it was developed by the Greeks or even before, about like the Parthenon is a golden section. It's a proportion that one leg is, if you rotate it up, and then it's half of the other leg. But anyway, it's a rectangle, and it's supposed to have very pleasing standards. The Mona Lisa is a golden section. There are just countless examples of it in nature as well. So the front of the building, the bays are actually golden section, which is really, as I would not be surprised. So we were trying to create that and play with that on the side. So what we've done here is we've built on the entire existing foundation. We've done a 1-story. And in order to keep the roof line lower than the other building, we've put sort of a porch on the front. And you'll see in some of these options, we actually enclose that space. But in this one, we're looking at basically keeping the space. We would rebuild the front wall and then put some sort of a porch that has colonnade. We were looking at the same proportion as the sides of the space, so that you could have this piece. And again, these are more about direction, and they need more delineations. Just to sort of talk about if we were to keep the foundation but push the facade back, so that we would have sort of this porch and try to keep the primary elevation there. The next building, we actually looked at what happens if you don't do a peaked roof on it, if you just did a flat roof. I knew I'd get that look. But wait, it could have it or not. This is an option. But what we're also looking at in this version here, keeping the stair, and then what we were looking at was saying, what if we created a colonnade and large glass openings? So the building was not brick, but was more of like a porch that was closed in, so we could have community spaces in there, and at night you could see into that space.
And it brings out the building
Correct.
Exactly.
However,
This is
I was
kind of a
always told you never have a flat building in the state of
that's-
Maine,
that's- I
flat roof.
understand that.
And after
Every-
dealing with Cottrell's roof for the last 2 years, I can vouch to that.
Well, it can have a pitch too.
The next page has the
Sorry.
pitched roof on it.
Okay,
Because I knew where
that's
you'd go,
better, Paul.
But
but I had to show it to you.
but, you know, bringing out the old building, this
Absolutely.
definitely
Yes.
does
Oh,
make the
yes.
old building, you know, the original structure stand out.
Correct.
That
So-
gives it that
And that-
compliment.
So
And
in
that's one of the
20
reasons
years,
we're looking at.
When we're dead,
because-
when I'm dead and gone in 20 years and they're saying, oh, that roof is leaking.
Flat roofs are okay.
No, sir.
It's technically,
Yeah.
technically.
Okay,
We can make them leak, not leak,
okay, yeah, okay.
because pitched roofs can leak too.
Yes,
We have one of those now.
Yeah.
Any roof can leak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just to continue on this third option a little bit, the idea is that this is a colonnade.
Mhm.
The columns could be white columns, they could be brick columns, but it's large pieces of glass.
yeah. I
So
like
that you could see what's inside. We thought that could be a nice contrast
Mhm.
to the other building, especially when we're talking about the kind of functions that we imagine in the historic building and then what we might do in the other building.
Mhm.
Might want, imagine if you were two multi-purpose rooms and you had
Yeah.
band playing. and kids
Ceremony
practicing.
here, reception there. kind of
Right.
Thing.
And with the right landscaping, it could feel like you were in a
Yes,
garden.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Swimming pool, no.
So that version there is sort of that, and I'm walking you down the path here, so.
Walk me down that path.
The next version has in order to keep the roof lower than the other roof and make it secondary, what we're showing you here is a flat roof on the front and then a pitched roof behind it. We're trying to keep the pitch the same pitch as the existing building
Mhm.
because we think that's important, how it feels. So this one has the sort of colonnade and part of it is enclosed and then part of it becomes more of like an entry covered porch that's outside. Again, we haven't done a lot with landscaping, but you can see from the elevation view, which is really the road view, that it would be smaller. You'd have the porch and there'd be some shadow in there. And that's sort of that version there.
Now, with the transition from slope roof to the flat roof over the porch area. That to me would seem.
We would have to flash it up and have the shingles come down and then probably do roof drains on the porch.
Yeah, because particularly where that's to the north.
Yeah.
the Easterly side, you're not gonna get the melt.
Correct. Yeah, it has some technical issues.
I apologize, but I have to unfortunately be someplace else at 7. No, may I keep this?
Absolutely, yes. As long as you don't send me nasty grams.
I'm not gonna disregard, I'm not disregarding anything.
The next option is the one though
Any
that
Thursday.
what we're doing there is actually creating a break between
The two buildings.
the two buildings as a sort of a breezeway porch. It's enclosed. But what we're trying to do there is say, okay, we've got this whole foundation to build on. Excuse me. We're looking at the proportions. So basically what we're building is the proportions of this addition are the same as the back proportion of the existing building. And by splitting them with a glassy breezeway, which could have a sloped roof or it could be flat. These are all options. But you can see what we're trying to do is sort of say, okay, if you took the hall off the other building, you'd have this building and we're going to sort of rebuild a version of that. Now, this could have more glass on the front, like we talked about. What we're showing you here is basically what if it was brick and it had similar windows. I'm always hesitant to duplicate something exactly because we could never do the brickwork. And even this could be clapboard, but proportionally with the two buildings being the same size, I think it actually could work. And the last one I know is a throwaway because it's the same version with a flat roof. I know you won't like it, but just to show you visually what it looks like. Because again, from the facade, when you look down on a flat roof, it's flat, but when you look at it from across, it does start to be less than the other building.
Right.
That is something I think that's worth considering. So can't tell you what any of these cost yet. But we have a foundation, so we would basically be building a one-story building. we are still within the fire limits where we would not need to have a sprinkler because we don't have a second story. And we could build this out of wood, clad it with whatever, brick, clapboard, whatever. The roof structure as a pitched roof could be actually the same way you build a lot of houses with trusses that are inexpensive, easy to erect, quick to erect, and would give us whatever pitch we wanted. We'd have a flat roof inside, but it also gives us place to run mechanicals, and we have the lower level where we can do a mechanical room, as we talked about. So
Have you given any thought to the roof covering material, shingles or?
there is a product that we have been looking at that I'm really intrigued with, which is a porcelain tile that looks like slate. And I think that would just be lovely. It's not ridiculously expensive either. And there are also some composite slate products that look like slate. I mean, the building was not clad in slate, but of this period, it would have classically been.
Larry, doesn't the blacksmith shop have something?
It's all
It's a
metal.
metal
Yeah,
roof.
metal.
It looks
Like
like
slate.
slate.
Right, there are some tiles that we could look at. There are some really nice asphalt shingles that last 50 years that look like slate as well. I mean, that's the look that's sort of there now. So I think we would want to basically put the same roof on both buildings. So asphalt would, no.
We'll pull
But
those out and throw those
If
in.
you're gonna be my ally in this,
I really
I'll
like that.
explore this.
Yeah.
You like the fact?
Well, again, I
Oh.
wouldn't mind it having a bit of a pitch.
Well, it
obviously.
would ultimately have a slight pitch, so for drainage, for sure.
But the simple fact, and just the simple fact that it just augments
Yes.
the original building.
Mhm.
And then all of this is just a wonderful, like, big sunroom.
Right,
It brings us out and it gives wonderful space that is airy and light. And it's just, for me, that's the most eye-popping to me.
Yeah,
It doesn't,
because
it takes away from nothing from the
Exactly.
original building.
No.
if you look at the plan on either of the last two, you'll see what we're doing is basically putting 3 multi-purpose rooms across the front of the building. The kitchen would be they're not labeled, but the kitchen is the rectangle. The one with the notch is actually the bathrooms. And
Okay.
then keeping the stair that's there
Yeah.
to go down to a lower level. Then the connector, what we would like to do with the other building is actually pretty much open it right up.
Yeah.
And have it be a gallery space. A couple columns we'll need in there, which already exist. We would just expose them, maybe glad them better. But so probably build a vestibule as well on the entrance, but that we have a large open space, so you could have an event in the hall, and then you could have a reception outside, or we could put movable partitions, you could have a gallery, you could have, it could be high school art, could be adult, anyone, right? Or that could be used for a lot of things, but trying, and again, opening it wide up and not building a lot of walls is gonna be less expensive. And then we build walls in the new building, and then we open up and we just, maybe put the wainscot back on the exterior. Have that feel, but make it basically be a large open field, maybe open the ceiling so it has a vaulted roof as well,
Paul, if you go with the mostly flat but possibly tilted roof.
Whoa, they're
You gotta
flipping
love
like
it. You
flies.
gotta love
What's the maintenance in the wintertime on that? Is there?
It would be designed to support the snow loads that are typical for our
And you
state.
wouldn't have to go up there
would
and
not have to
shovel
go
it
up
off.
there and
No,
shovel it.
that's why I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, it can't be flat.
It would have a slight pitch, and we would deal with water. We might do
Right.
some interior drains. So it would not need someone to go up there and shovel it.
No.
Unless we got like 5 feet of snow, and then, that's everyone's.
We all
worried
have
about
to
that.
have
But
that kind of thing.
But we would design it to support the current snow loads that we are
Yeah,
experiencing.
and the only reason I'm saying that is again, when you look at this and you're looking at the building,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just,
just, you
There
see
it
the high
is.
school.
And
Yes, you see the.
yeah.
So what I'll say
I really like
is,
that. This is
I
my-
think cost wise, I don't think there's a huge difference. I mean, there's the cost of the membrane roof versus the asphalt shingle.
Right, right.
Whether it's trusses or gables, I mean, it's not, I don't think there's a cost issue about flat or pitched. There's obviously an aesthetic one. And we haven't looked at what if we made it like a half pitch roof, not as steep as the other building, or
Yeah.
what if we did an asymmetrical roof, so the front was pitched at the same pitch and the back was in the other direction.
Yeah, some different options.
There, we could explore all
to
those.
take care of. But to keep that extra section kind of in a minimalist,
Yes,
I just think
yeah,
it's very,
I get that.
And I'm just
Sure.
thinking of the perspective of
absolutely.
maintenance, ongoing maintenance
Absolutely.
costs.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're
I
thinking for
understand
the,
that.
if we did the glass one, we know we can get large windows
Mhm.
that size as insulated units. So it's not a curtain wall system. It's like a traditional window,
Right,
just big. So that would actually have a more traditional feel, even though it was a large piece of glass.
right.
And would they be able to, open, because I'm thinking of if there were events and as opposed to having a front porch where you could have, a bar on the porch or.
We could
food out on the
we
porch
could look
that
at a
they-
pair
that
of
they
them
could-
being doors,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or maybe a few of them. I mean, this is all
Couple, yeah.
possible.
Right.
Right, so, yeah, if it is a porch, I think that would happen. If it's these versions here where we don't have a porch, but we have sort of a colonnade,
But then,
we would probably have some terracing in front.
yeah,
Right, which could be
yes.
stepped out onto.
that you
Correct.
could get out onto,
And that would be a place that somebody could put a tent
yes,
for a wedding as well,
exactly.
if you
And
wanted. I
then-
mean, there's other places too,
Yeah.
but
Right, right.
that
But
could
you're
be
keeping it very
Yeah.
close and intimate, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can, these are all strategies to save money, right? To
Right,
keep things
right.
as tight as possible.
Yeah.
Um,
And this eliminates the need to try to do anything matching the veneer on the original building.
So, Paul, you're
I really
thinking
don't think you
you
want to
would
try to do that.
Tear the building down and leave the first floor and
pretty
pretty
much
much.
leave the first floor and then build on it.
Right, there's
And
bricks on
then
manufactured,
By
everything, right?
separating
The
it,
mortar's
we can
different,
expose the
everything's
corner of
different.
the existing building, because that pilaster on the corner would have been exposed.
Right.
And
Right.
John's also been in the back of my head saying expose the pilaster.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's why the connector piece, even though, we may just keep the platform and just weatherproof it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. In front and in back, you're gonna have the original slab. We'd have to do.
We'd have to do something, or we would demolish that and build a new wall and then build it's not a lot of foundation wall to build.
Yeah.
So we may do that as well. Couple options on how we approach that, and that needs a little more study, but
It wouldn't be terrible if you still maintained that basement across for access to the basement of the other
Mhm.
building.
which
the old
doesn't
building.
really exist now.
Yeah, there's no access.
So we
between the
could
two.
then open that up, and then at least you'd have access to the other part
To the other
for
part.
whether it's
whatever.
mechanical or storage or.
Right.
Mechanicals,
Yeah, yeah.
because then you could do all the mechanicals out into here,
Yep.
or a lot of them.
What we're doing by this and is basically kitchen, the bathrooms, mechanical is all in the part that we're adding on, like we
Nice.
discussed last time.
Right.
And then the existing building, if we open it wide up, we're really just opening it up, and I think you
And
just
then
have
you
a,
have, like you say, the wainscoting and.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could-
that
we could
original
replace-
Coating back and,
right, and we could do, just looking at it, I think we could duplicate it rather than try to strip what's there, but but we could do that, we could bring it up, we could make it look really authentic to the period. It wouldn't have been the type of space that was there originally, but I think it becomes a really usable space.
Right,
know,
with a hat tip to the period. that-
Exactly, like I would say we would build a vestibule, and then we'd probably down here have maybe a little bit, but then open up the rest of it so that it connects. Sorry, you can't see what I'm drawing. If we build like a vestibule here off that entrance, so the inside, so it's a weatherproof, right? And
Right, yeah.
then we have some room here for maybe a small office or something. And then the rest of it is open and then connects through to this space. And I think that becomes a nice
so
space.
square footage of, on, where am I? I just opened up to this one, but I mean, any of them that have that original vestibule part as wide open. I mean, what's the footage, square footage?
It's, I think it's just shy of 2,000 square feet.
So I'm thinking about, the hope and dream that we could actually vote in there, because this could, people can get in and out of this
Right.
door.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm not sure what the size of the gymnasium is, that if we could use this for voting.
That would be
um,
wonderful.
And
really
then we would be not having to deal with the RSU stuff and asking, you know, can we please
Absolutely.
use the building that we pay
Can we-
$450,000, you know?
And Public Works can
And-
set up the day
exactly.
before and tear it down the
Exactly.
day
Take it
after instead of
after,
knocking the
not
board out
rushing.
on the night of.
So, and that space, I'd assume, would probably be large enough to do that. in.
Yeah, and it could open up,
Probably.
yeah, it could also open up to the hall
Yes.
as well, so you
Yeah.
could use that space too.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine why it would be.
No, I think it'd be
Would think
big.
it would
I don't
be.
know what the gym is at the.
The gym is larger, but still, I think,
But we only use 3/4 of it.
Exactly.
anyway, And we're spread out all over the place
It'd
because
be a
we
lot smaller.
can. Right.
Yeah.
Well, look what's used to in the basement comes.
Oh, gosh, it was tiny
that was
over
tiny, that
there,
was
and this
small.
is
The nice
huge
thing about
compared to
the
that.
gym and having that extra space is if there's inclement weather on election day, you can get people in. and
More
then you
people
can-
in.
they could
Snake
queue in
them.
that
Yeah.
space, right? You could even open the front doors to the hall
Yeah.
Right.
and have,
And
That's
there's,
true.
you know, there's space in, additional space in there
Exactly.
too that.
We might have them come
That
in
if
a
there
different
was,
part and
you
go
know,
out.
and go out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, even if there was a queue, you know, they could queue through the library area.
Exactly.
And back in.
So that makes it very usable for
Yes.
the town.
Mhm. It's also usable in many other ways because first off, it's a large space, so it in some ways could preserve the hall for
Right.
special events and the
Mhm.
finishes in there are gonna be, you know,
You
try
don't want
to,
to take, right.
right, you want, that's gonna be a little more special, right? So
Mhm.
that means that a big function like a art exhibition or a meeting or something
Mhm.
could happen in this space or a science fair, I don't know.
Yeah.
when the
Right.
exhibition
Art
is, but
show.
Art
Yeah.
show, right. That could all happen in here.
Wine and cheese.
If there's a concert happening in the hall,
Mhm.
then this is like intermission. Everybody comes out
Yes.
here
Yeah.
and they're not spilling drinks or things in the hall or whatever, you know? So, I mean, I imagine
Right, no,
it'd be nice to do a wood floor in the hall.
Yeah.
So you want to
Yeah, you want to preserve it.
preserve that. And then this could be, you know, more durable space, but still have that piece. And you think about the types of spaces you have to use and how having two spaces of the same size could be really flexible. This one,
Mhm.
maybe it's still a flat roof, but it's high enough and it,
Yeah.
I think we could do some wonderful things with it. So I'm really excited about that being just a big open space. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how I feel if we're
Envision that.
doing, you know, this
You have
other
your-
section, have,
Now,
Right,
you know,
and
because-
where are you saying, like the kitchen?
kitchen right here.
Good, okay.
Yeah, so basically, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
apologize.
I
I need
get
to
it,
get
yeah.
bigger boards. The kitchen right here.
Okay.
yeah,
So
It's
people come in
accessible
there and the
either.
bathrooms
Right.
here and the stair down below. So we know we have access below, but if, you know, you could at least get there.
Does this one have a little office possibility?
Yes,
Okay, because I think that some
Yeah.
little office space is going to be important up there
Yep.
because
Mhm.
whoever ends up managing this, I hope it's Dennis, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Is going to need, when they're showing people around up there, to have some paperwork, contracts, all of that stuff.
yeah, I'm thinking a vestibule will be important here, especially if that's an accessible entrance. So it gives someone time to get in without
Yeah, I
all
think
that cold
that-
air coming in. And then we could get an office in here or two small offices. And then keep that, the rest of that more open. And it would sort of line up with this wall. So
yeah.
when you come in, it wouldn't feel like it's, you know, it wouldn't feel like these two rooms do.
Might even
Well,
be
those
this
never
way.
were there. and
No, but right now, they're sort of
Yeah,
intrusive in this
They
space.
are, yeah,
Because you don't have this, I'm a big fan of pure rectangles or pure
Yes.
shapes because
yes,
you can easily understand the space.
Right.
yes,
And I think being able to sort of feel this whole space
yeah,
is really going to be special, you know,
Yeah.
in a way of a part of the building that was never meant to be that way, but it's a new adaptation.
Yes.
So,
Right.
If you did that and you only put a single story out there, how would you access the second floor of the original building?
I don't know if I follow. If I did this
Yes, if you put a single story
On,
out
over
there,
here.
yeah,
would you still have to build a stairway in the original building someplace
Not
to
necess-
access the second floor?
Oh, I think we would just abandon the second floor, or we'd have, if it became mechanical space, we would just do an access hatch to it or something.
Oh,
well,
That's
that's
what
your
I-
idea too of it being.
yeah, that's what I was wondering is.
Yeah, I would rather
that's
take the floor out and see
Right.
if we can maybe restore the, if it opens up to the vaulted ceiling and we can have the little bay windows bring light
Yes.
into that space from
Yes.
above.
Oh,
As
That would
as
be
opposed to the
gorgeous.
floor.
Yeah.
And so what is up there, you know, because that's the other thing. Do we know what,
small.
I mean, is it post and beam? Are
Well, it's
they
open
old?
space now.
But I mean, what's the floor
Oh,
system?
well,
What's
even
the-
if the floor, if if we just exposed it as open rafters
Rafters.
with the light coming
It'd
in,
be
I think it could
amazing.
feel
It'd be
nice.
really
I mean, it
nice.
goes, one could say it might go a little Grange Hall, but
No.
I don't think I think it could be
No,
nice.
No, I don't.
Because if it
Yeah, with
is the
with lights
same
up there.
period
Excuse me.
as what we see in the attic,
Mhm.
which would stand to reason that it's got to be, eight.
That's
8 by 8s or
slightly newer.
whatever.
That end is slightly newer than the original building
Right,
because it wasn't built all at the same time.
this,
No, the back
oh,
half.
the back, right,
Yeah,
yes.
that was two separate buildings.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Tell
Got something in
by-
my throat.
Oh, you want some
Construction of the
water?
roof.
I think I'll be okay. I'll suppress it, but thank you. I'm doing, when I talk a lot, I draw.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the other thing, so I'm a big fan of the separation of the two buildings.
Mhm.
I think it works better than butting right up to the building. Because then we can also get sort of a similar experience of seeing that wall. And
that
even
wall.
with this, we'd see the brick. we'd
I like
see-
Yeah.
those little wings that come off. They're
Yeah.
Very attractive, yeah.
And then it's also, as our budget develops, we could contract this if we had to.
Mhm.
And, look at this as a priority and maybe we just build kitchen and bathrooms and then we
Whatever.
deck the rest of it. I don't know. I'm trying to give us wiggle room
Mhm.
for things. But this being the most important part,
Yeah.
right? So we get this open and do that and then look at what we could do here, whether it's a flat roof or a pitched roof.
Well, it'd be nice to take advantage of that entire space that's there. The foundation is there and the stairway's there.
Right.
If
I
we-
think keeping the lower floor, that's bonus
Yeah,
space.
absolutely.
Mhm.
The stair is already there. It actually has a lift on it too, that, it is not necessarily code, but it could get someone down there if you had to with the chairlift. I assume it's operational. I don't know.
It was operational until we shut it down, and we
Yeah.
decommissioned it because it saved us money to do that.
Right. So whether it gets recommissioned or not
To
becomes
be
a
serviced,
decision.
check it out, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what I'd like to suggest is that we explore this direction. Whether it's flat or pitched roof,
Yeah.
but look at, develop this more, look at some of the details. I think I'm hearing that we like the glass front.
That's- I just think it,
Well, my first appearance, when I first looked at this, I went, ooh, but then when I looked at it and
you
really
look
looked at
at
it.
what you will.
Yeah, and then how it really highlights the old building.
What we will do
I
is
think
we'll
that's the
develop
goal.
renderings of it
Yes.
and we can walk you through it to show you what
Yes.
it feels like. It's hard to, with this and this, it's a little hard to
Yeah,
see.
well, and in comparison, look at the
Oh,
the
yeah.
front elevation there.
Exactly.
The original academy fades, in my
Fades
opinion,
away.
fades away.
Yeah, because you're seeing the broad roof
Right.
of the
That's the
extra
thing
part.
that caught my
Yeah.
eye.
And one of the things I would like to explore is if we put these like size windows on the
Yes.
back and you
Yeah.
might be able to see through.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then see that, or even on the hallway behind them, so like you'd see that sort of through the building.
Yeah,
Sort of-
it kind of makes it disappear.
Yeah.
Which way is the south side?
I would
Which
get,
is south?
Larry, you took the word out.
Essentially this way,
Passive
towards the end of.
solar.
North,
Yeah, so south is facing.
Yeah.
Down on this sheet, right? Or no?
No, it's-
no.
if you're looking at it's to your right, it's to the right.
Yeah.
It's an east-west and that's
Yeah.
south.
Yes,
Yeah, this is happening.
So we wouldn't get any solar.
No.
No.
North is
you
behind
could.
us.
North is behind us. Turn around.
I mean, you always
Yeah,
do
I guess so.
ground mounted.
No, I was
Yeah.
thinking of passive
No.
solar.
Oh,
If
passive
you had the
solar.
windows
Yeah.
facing the south
Well,
side.
east-west, I think is actually probably a little better.
exactly.
Because we get either morning sun or afternoon
Afternoon.
sun.
Well, that's true too.
And then it's a little,
Well, and I think having the two buildings separate, if you
Yeah.
ever wanted to get it on a national register of historic buildings, by having it by itself, I think
Right.
you could make a better case.
I agree with you.
I
I
do
think
like the
separating,
separation of it.
it gives it,
I do too. I think it looks
we
good.
want to honor, well, this is what we're talking about
Right,
since.
well, and
my
that's
first
the
one.
whole thing. And that's, I think, why this particular version caught my eye, because that's the focus. This is awesome. But that's the focus, right there.
Right, absolutely.
That's
And we
what you
want
see.
that other building to recede and to be more
Yeah, I want
about,
it to go disappear.
Yeah,
but also to be a contrast to the building.
Yeah.
And with the windows on the back, if there was an event down on the fairgrounds, a concert or whatever taking place down there, a sporting event or whatever it might be, if you were inside getting something to eat or whatever, you could still see what was
Right.
going on. So,
And from a fire point of view, having the buildings separated, wouldn't that be?
Absolutely. If we do run into issues where we want to avoid sprinklers. And to be honest, I think we've got enough ways to get out of this building that it's not like people would get trapped.
But still, even if one building caught on fire, the
We'd have
fire
a s-
department could get
We-
there and.
We'd have a separation
Yeah.
and we could even design it so that there's a 1 hour wall there
Right.
on
Yeah.
one side
Mhm.
with doors that are on hold opens or whatever, so that there was an actual separation. And that actually might help us with code. We need to do a little more research on that, but a 1 hour wall is not difficult to build, even a 2 hour wall is not difficult.
and you're glad when you have them, right?
You better believe it, Steve. I'm so happy you made us do that. It saved us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That hadn't been, the whole building been on the ground.
Yeah.
When, what one? The
clinic.
veterinary clinic.
Burned in 95.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know about that.
So
Really?
Paul, you're gonna
Scary.
send these to me?
I
so
will,
send
I
to
will,
everyone?
yes, I will send you a full PDF of all of
Okay,
these
great.
sheets. I kind of like to present them and talk before I send them to you, so that'll be first thing tomorrow morning.
We have been interested in putting an archives in
Right.
there.
Mhm.
So what would you propose for an archival room?
Could look at any one of these spaces
Okay,
as an archival
that would be great.
room.
What would be their dimension size?
Those are not that large. Those are like. Put those on there. This is six. This is
That
like,
space was,
I think they're 15 by 20.
That's perfect. That would be
Yeah.
all we would need.
Yeah.
15 by 20 would be
Some
plenty.
couple tables.
And we might look at
Yes.
putting
Yeah.
one, maybe.
the building's 62 long.
Yeah,
That would be fine.
yeah, I'll just make sure. We did have that. This is roughly, I know it's still in my notes of the archive, but I will make a special note of that. So, okay, so I am going to send you this in the morning, so you'll all have this. We are going to then push the development of a concept sort of like this with the glass front. What we're thinking for the rest of it would be sort of like a nickel gap or a shiplap siding horizontal, which is actually kind of what's up on the peak
Right.
of the building. So not a clapboard, but a flat
Mhm.
board that
Shiplap,
could be
yeah.
painted,
Yeah.
right, painted white.
Mhm.
We could do it like a little gap. I think it would look very clean and also, I won't say modern, but clean, simple,
Yeah.
minimal. And then with the glass and the white, I think it would sort of pull back, and then we have the brick. That's actually probably going to be less expensive than building in brick as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But could we look at a brick version? Absolutely, that would be easy, and we could do that and show you the difference so that you can see what it's like if it was brick versus the.
It's hard to find masons around.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of masonry restoration.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
So
find
Paul,
still
when you
trash
send
them.
that tomorrow, you're gonna get a response, an automated response, because I'm off until Tuesday.
Correct, okay.
But I'll still be getting my email tomorrow.
Should I be sending it to, I have 2 emails for you. I wanted to ask that. One is town manager, the other one's your name.
Either one of them goes to the same email
Oh,
address.
they do, okay.
Yeah,
I've just
you
been sending them to your
probably-
name.
You're best off to be using town manager, because
Okay.
when I leave at the end of the month, Justin will be using the
That
town
same,
manager.
right.
Yeah, so use that. But I will forward it to everyone tomorrow. Once I have it, I will ask you to please forward to Mr. Brown, because I can't forward anything to him from my phone.
Hot
I don't know.
rod issues.
I don't know what I do. What's so
I
difficult?
do not know. It's just difficult.
Well, great. This is exactly the type of feedback I was hoping for. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I know this is it. I say it again. It's a work in progress, but
Oh,
the
exactly.
feedback has been really helpful for us as we're developing this.
Yeah.
Andrew, who you met at the interview, is working with me closely on this, and he loves a flat roof. I said to him, I need a pitched roof option.
Yeah, you definitely do. I
But we've
think
been-
because it makes everything disappear,
Yeah.
when you have your roof there, it draws your eye that
Yeah.
way.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
just, again,
that's good. Well,
mine like a salt box almost.
We
kind
will
of.
look at both, and I'm glad to hear that it's not completely.
But maintenance is important.
Maintenance is,
Yeah.
because
But-
the
Right.
mistake that
Yep.
communities make a lot,
Yes.
municipalities, is they invest in something but they don't think about the maintenance costs down the road.
Absolutely.
So we need to be
Agreed.
thinking about that.
Correct. And that option is an easy one for us to continue to develop both of them. So you can see them and then
Yeah.
we'll have a conversation at one point and make a decision. And
Yeah, because
you know, I have my preference. It's about what,
I agree with Linda, but you can't just look at maintenance in the current, you
No,
know,
exactly,
you have to look 20 years down the road,
absolutely, agreed.
30 years down the road.
Yeah.
and there are a lot of materials that we've been looking at, even with the shiplap, there's a composite product that I won't say it's maintenance free, but it's, you know, it doesn't weather and it, you know, the color is through body and it wouldn't have to be painted. It wouldn't have peeling paint on. I mean, you're gonna have ongoing maintenance with the building,
Balance. Yeah, I like that.
Interested in that.
but it could still look,
A building
Very
that takes
classic.
care of itself.
we're not talking
It's
about
kind of exciting.
plastic or, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
good, all right.
Well, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is very.
I was gonna tell you, my coughing, I'm fully vaccinated, booster.
Oh, me too, I got my booster.
But I just went to my allergist yesterday and I'm very, very allergic to my dog.
Oh.
Well, I know because Teresa's gonna get rid of me.
You get rid of you for the dogs. You're good, Larry.
The dog stays.
I hope I'm not allergic to mine. But
Awesome.
I went to Montreal, it was my wedding anniversary last weekend with my wife, and to do that, you had to have COVID tests. So we had two because we wanted to get them in time, so both negative, and we both had our boosters as well. And then I got to the border and I was picked out special for an extra COVID test. I had to log on with a nurse from Canada, from the government, and
Yeah.
they had to watch me do my test and negative 3 times now. But, you know, I understand what they do. What am I gonna do, argue about it?
Okay, anything else with? All right, and should we go on to item 5, which is to set time and agenda for our next meeting?
What does Linda care?
This is my last meeting with y'all.
We have to select the demo company within 30 days. Is that what we have
I
to do?
think
or-
that, is that what was on the RFP?
I will double check. I don't think we put that there, and I think
Okay.
now that we're gonna open a conversation with them,
And we're gonna speak to both, which is.
we'll speak to both, and it's gonna, I mean, we're between Thanksgiving and Christmas here, so it's always a weird time, but I would hope that we could have something by,
But the bid's only good for 30 days? Is that what it was?
I don't think we asked them to limit it.
Okay,
That's something that's happened on other bids. I don't think we did that. I have to double check.
okay.
So just something to be thinking about.
Right.
As far as this going to the select board for the select board to award the bid.
Yep.
That packet gets done the week before and gets posted on the Thursday before the meeting. So whenever you are gonna make a decision, you're gonna kind of want to time it to move this along. So it'll work with the packet getting sent to them. So there's a select board meeting on the 29th, but you guys won't be meeting again before that. So then now we're looking into January select board meetings.
Okay,
So the
I-
select board meetings in January would be the 12th and the 26th.
But if we
So-
did something, I mean,
Like
ooh, that
January
might not be good.
4th or something, earlier in the month, or that doesn't
Or-
work with what you're saying?
well, if you've got, you
Like,
said
you're
the
sending your
20,
meeting.
the 12th and the
12th and the
26th.
26th. If you had a meeting
party.
on January 4th, because you were meeting on Tuesday nights.
Yeah,
You only moved this one for me. Thank you very much.
yeah,
So
so the
January the 4th?
4th, that would give it time to get to.
Get into the
Yep,
packet.
into the packet.
So this has to go to the select board for approval?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does.
So can, everybody good with
Yep.
the 4th? Same bat time, same bat channel?
6 PM.
Back to Tuesday.
I'll get that
Yeah,
posted and make sure Justin knows about it.
If we meet then, we won't have another meeting in late January, probably.
Unless necessary, but would be more than likely into February, huh?
Where do
I
you
hope
think
so.
you're?
I'm gonna be MIA for a couple of weeks, the end of January.
Why, you want to go away to the woods?
No.
And actually, we will
Key West,
do
I'm
it,
fun.
yeah,
I
we
was-
will
I
do it
was
at the
there
end of
in fall.
January, so
Or no,
beginning
April.
of February. So
Yeah.
we'll be gone for a
The pier's
couple
kind of cool.
weeks.
Have you been there?
Yeah, about 10 years ago. I went.
Okay.
Okay, so
I've never
January
been.
4th, 6
Jane, let's
p.m.
do January 4th and then
Okay.
we can, yeah, we'll be discussing who's gonna be around for into February.
Okay.
And just ask, may I continue to keep this? I brought it just in case you needed it back, but.
I don't need it back, but if you're
Okay.
finding it helpful.
Yes, and John is also wants a little more
Yeah.
digging into
Yeah.
it, so.
By all means.
Okay.
There's more
and-
where those came from, isn't there, Larry? Are there some around?
I don't know. I don't know. I have one. but-
John, we can talk. I will do that
Let's put it
agenda
inside.
for you the week before, so
So
you
it's
and I can
protected.
talk about what you want to do.
Okay, yeah, because then we do some of these very similar. to
Yeah,
we're
that's what I'm
doing here.
thinking.
Yeah, not my
Yeah,
so,
demo decision at that point.
yeah, demo decision, yeah.
And updates on the drawings, maybe?
We'll have, by that point, I would hope to have some renderings. and some-
Oh, renderings,
Cool.
okay, good.
Maybe we'll have some estimates on some stuff?
Yes, we should have something. I'm
Okay.
gonna try to get at least the Bell estimate, and then what we'll do is, once we have square footages, we can at least start to put some preliminary numbers
Right, some
ourselves.
ballpark numbers.
Yeah, just to
Okay.
sort of say what we
All
think
right.
it will
So
cost.
Dawn, maybe we want to do that agenda so that the demo discussion is a separate item. Because
Okay,
you're going to want to vote on that.
yes,
And then the next item is general discussion with architect.
Great.
okay,
And that way that leaves you to discuss all of this stuff.
right.
Mhm.
With one part needing a vote and the second
Right,
not.
right.
Okay. All right, good.
Excellent.
All right, we have no public, so.
But we
unless,
do
you-
have
But we do
public.
I was gonna say, unless Doug has some comments or feedback. You're all set? Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Chris,
I'll second it.
okay, Steve second. All in favor? Okay,
When is the RFP for the CM gonna go out? Has that even started the process?
No, we've got some early drafts, but we haven't done anything yet. I think we were hoping to get the resolution on the.
Not allergic to cats.
yeah.
Okay.
You can find that out.
Hey,
Why
Larry.
don't we make that part of the agenda next time?
Okay.
To at least
Larry.
RFP.
RFP
I'm just
for
trying to
CM,
shut this
yeah.
down.
And then we can